Hi, my name is Ashish Gehi. I'm currently a senior graduating in May from the University of Houston.
Hi, my name's Neilsen. I am a senior as well, and I will be graduating in December.
Hi, my name is Kevin Kang, and I'm a senior, and I'll be graduating fall semester.
And we're Team 15, by the way.
Today we're going to talk about Jacob Neilsen's law of internet bandwidth. Here's a picture of Jacob Neilsen. He is mostly known as a leading usability consultant. He was born in 1957 in Copenhagen, Denmark. And he earned his PhD in human-computer interaction from Technical University of Denmark. He holds 79 US patents on the way to make the internet easier to use. And some of notable backgrounds, he worked as Sun Microsoft Systems from 1994 to 1998. And he was hired to make heavy-duty enterprise software easier to use. And eventually, he ended up defining a field of web usability. And in 1984, he formulated a theory of internet bandwidth, which is we're going to talk about it today. And according to Business Week, he's one of the world's most influential designers. Also, they mentioned a foremost experts in web usability.
First thing you want to ask when speaking about Neilsen's law of internet bandwidth is, what is internet bandwidth? And the best definition we came up with is that internet bandwidth is the amount of usable communication data that can be transferred in a given amount of time. In simpler terms, it can be stated as the speed of data transferred. Usually, bandwidth is measured in bits per second, and it is measured in multiples of bits per second, most notably kilobits and megabits. Here's an example of a 56K modem. As you all would probably remember, the loud, noisy, annoying, and slow voice fax modems that they used to have. And the 56K that's written here would stand for 56 kilobits per second. And nowadays we have around 32, and that's in megabits, so that's probably times like thousands more, if I'm not mistaken. So you can imagine how much faster we've come since the 56K modem days. Basically, the law of internet bandwidth was first talked about by Neilsen in 1984. He further developed it in 1998 with some little observations, but very pertinent, and he last updated the law in 2010. And basically the law has two major points. The first point is that a high-end user's connection speed grows by 50% annually, and you don't get to use that connection speed or bandwidth, and you don't get to see the results right away. On average, it takes about 5 years, and that's because you don't really have a need for that bandwidth right away. There's so many users that aren't using that capability, and they don't have the equipment that's up to date, or the bandwidth capabilities that keep up to speed with the rate of growth, which is 50% annually, as I mentioned before. And you can see here's a picture of the old America Online connection, little pictures that they had when you use the 56K modem normally, or just anything with America Online, and it would be really slow. You'd have to connect with the loud and annoying noises. And nowadays, you could just click on your web browser and you'd be connected right away, whereas back in the day, you'd have to wait 5 minutes, and in that time now, you can be done with all your work. So it's really picked up lately. And to show Neilsen's law in a picture form or in data form, here's a graph that Neilsen put together from his article that shows that in 1984 he started off with only 300 bits per second, not kilobits or megabits, just bits. So it's very basic with 300, and then slowly it gets higher every year, and these little blue squares are the points of bits per second that he has in that given year. And as you can see, all the way from 1983 to 2011, all the squares in here, if you draw a straight line through them, it comes out to be approximately 49%. And that is as close to 50% as you can get, which is what Neilsen had stated in his law about the annual growth of 50%. So it is very accurate, and the data shows it. You can see that even within 5 years of difference, when you would see the results, it still comes out to around 50%.
Next, we're going to get into Neilsen's law versus Moore's law. The reason we compare both of them is because they're both very similar in the fact that they have a prediction rate on a gradual basis for growth. Moore's law basically states that computer capability doubles every 18 months. Comparatively to Neilsen's law, Moore's law is a lot quicker. This can be attributed to the fact of 3 ways. The first is telecommunications companies are conservative. What I mean by this is when a telecommunications company tries to increase their bandwidth, they have to go underground, they have to dig up a big hole in the ground, they have to install these wires, it takes a lot of time, a lot of people, just the cost and the time overall is, a lot, and companies want to really, plan and see, is it really worth, increasing the bandwidth and taking all this money and time, out of their schedules. Second reason for this, the reason that Neilsen's law is slower compared to Moore's law is the fact that users are just reluctant to spend more money on bandwidth. What I mean by this is you can go to the store and buy, some extra hard drive space, more memory for your computer, and you'll automatically see those results right away. If you go and you buy a modem that's twice as fast as the one you have now, you might not see the results right away. And that all goes back to Anis's point where he said sometimes it takes about 5 years to see the bandwidth speeds increase because of technological advances in equipment. So if you buy a new modem with twice the ability as the one you already have, the bandwidth technology might not be up to date yet, so you won't see those results right away. And users at the end of the day, really wonder, should I just wait a couple years to buy this, better modem? The last reason is the user base continues to grow on the internet. What I mean by this is, back a few years ago, you had a lot of high-end users that were, on the internet, basically to get their business, processes done, or, that you had like computer nerds out there, just trying to see how long and how fast the internet, they could use, the speed on there. But nowadays, you have people on there, looking up directions to places, recipes for things, movie reviews, whatever it is, and they're on the internet, maybe like 30 minutes to an hour at a time. So if the speed is a little slower, they're not really going to care as much. So they have to really, think about, does it really make sense for me, to spend all this money to increase my bandwidth speed when I can just, use what I have. Next, we're going to talk about how Neilsen's law has affected us as a society. Basically the summary is increased bandwidth speeds made our life a lot easier. Think about back a few years ago when you had to look up a number for a certain restaurant or for a company or anything. You would have to, open up those large phone books, look through it, and, it would take, a good 5 to 10 minutes to do that. But now you can easily just go online and search it on the internet and get it within, a minute. Another, way it's affected us is our ability just to transfer large information at times. A good example is this video right now. We're about to upload it to YouTube, and that's because of high bandwidth rates. If you tried doing this, probably if you tried doing this 10 years ago, it wasn't even, you weren't able to do it. And if you were doing it a few years ago, it would take a very, very long time. But nowadays, with, the large amounts of data you can transfer in a short amount of time, you could upload, full feature films onto a website or whatever you need to do. Secondly, think about cell phones. Just think about how over, the years you've heard, 3G to 4G, and possibly, higher and higher rates coming up. And that all has to do with bandwidth speed, because when you're using your phone, you're interacting between a network or another person, and you have to be able to send large amounts of information for all your apps and all your smartphones to work. So, whether it's browsing the internet or using applications on your phone or, getting directions, whatever it is, the higher your bandwidth speed, the more efficient that process is going to be, and, people are going to want to use their phones more and more and more. So in conclusion, basically, after all our research, I think it's safe to say all three of us agree that no, Nielsen's law of internet bandwidth is, is basically true. He made this in 1998. It's now been 14 years, and you just see how much the internet has grown, and it all has to do with bandwidth speed. Transferring large amounts of data, over a short period of time. And I think as we continue to move forward, we will see, even more change in this, and things you don't see right now, you'll probably be able to see in 5 years. So that basically wraps up our presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. We got all our information from this for this presentation from the website that the teacher supplied us, which is useit.com. And
it's Neilsen's personal website that he created. He even provides his own biography on there as well.
And thank you for your time.
Thank you.